we're just going to have to go as is on my laptop, which I don't want to do, but okay.
It's like Bill Riley. Fuck it, I'll do it live.
You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Lohman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Lohman.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm here with Sidekick Doug. Hey Doug, what's up?
Hi, hello.
We're going to get into some Kavanaugh stuff, but first it's time for jokes. As usual, the joke man has called in a joke. We love our joke man. All right. Here we go.
Hey, Sonny, here's a joke for you. Billy walks into class late. His teacher says, "Billy, do not ever walk into class late again." The next day, Billy crawls into class late once again. Teacher says, "Billy, I thought I told you not to come into class late." Billy replies, "No, you told me I couldn't walk into class late. Bye."
All right. That joke sucked. So I don't know. I think you need to stop and the next day Billy crawled into class. Like, I got it immediately. You didn't need to keep going with it. But anyway, nice one. I see what he did there. I see how he turned it on his teacher. If you want to tell us a joke for next week, call the number 707-681-5834 and we'll play it because we play them all, even the ones that need a little work. Like that one. So, Doug, I've been sick for a long time, and I'm starting to worry about my mental health.
Just now you are?
Yeah, just now, a couple years later.
I've been worried for a while.
So tell me what you think of this, because, you know how when you wake up in the morning and you're just kind of laying there and you start thinking about stuff, like your mind sort of wanders, maybe you think about your day or work or your kids or something like that?
Yeah.
And you might fantasize about something, you're thinking about things. And this morning I was thinking, I was fantasizing about this idea, if I could put myself into some other body for a day and just experience health, what would that be like? And I just sat there fantasizing about that. And then I thought to myself, no, that would actually be bad, because then when I got back in my own body, it would be too much. I wouldn't be able to take it.
That's like wanting to go to Florida in the middle of winter. That's why I don't go to Florida in winter.
Why?
Because
you can't handle winter.
No, I don't want to come back.
Yeah.
I mean, because then it's jarring. It's like, shit, exactly. I'm in the sun and now I got to go back to winter. That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
It would feel good for a few days and then you'd be like, oh, shit.
Yeah, I was laying there I want to go to Florida and feel the sun and feel, And then no, that's not a good idea, because I've got 3 more months of winter left. Exactly.
But why in the fantasy can't you just imagine that you just have a better body? Why does it have a limit? You're limiting your fantasy.
Why am I taken out of my own body and put in someone else's body? I don't know.
No. Why do you come back to because you were saying, I don't just extend the fantasy to be where you just have a new body.
It's just done. I get a clone and I just get a new body.
Correct.
Can it be 20 years old?
I just thought of that last night. I was thinking the same. Last night I said, God, I wish I had 20. I wish I was 20 again.
We're both ill. That's what that is. We both have mental health issues.
I don't think it's a mental health issue. I think it's called midlife.
Midlife crisis. Yeah. And if you're sick.
No, just midlife. It's not a crisis. It's just.
These are the kinds of fantasies old people have?
Guess so. Maybe.
Yeah, they need to hurry up with the stem cell regeneration pills. I'm ready.
Yeah, where is all that stuff? Weren't we told 20 or 30 years ago we were going to have we're going to be able to grow new limbs and stuff like that? What's going on?
I don't know what's taking so long. I mean, they're using stem cells for things. They're definitely having some success, but it's not turning out to be the big thing that it's supposed to be. But what's kind of interesting is this CRISPR technology where they can cut out genes, and maybe they'll be able to cut out the aging mechanism, whatever that is.
I have a friend who works on CRISPR. Yeah.
That is so cool.
I think we were misled. Maybe we could sue.
Who can we sue? Who told us that?
I don't, yeah, exactly. Like, weren't there teachers and stuff that said someday?
Yeah. Is there a scientist we can sue? I remember when I was a kid, there was a book in English class that talked about the future. And it was like, in the year 2000, we're going to have these cylindrical, ginormous space stations that people are going to live in.
When you started with cylindrical, ginormous, I was thinking of something else, but...
Oh. That too. If you can have a giant cylinder or settlement in space, you can also have a giant penis. Why not?
That's what I'm saying. How hard would that be?
Although, this is a man fantasy, by the way, because women would run from a giant cylindrical.
Really?
I mean, come on.
See,
oh my God, that's
now we're getting into my fantasies.
That is scary.
Cylindrical, ginormous.
Yeah. Anyway, that was supposed to be the year 2000.
Ugh.
And we haven't even been back to the moon. So.
Well, you see these movies from old movies where they're projecting the future and they're like 2004. Right. Like LA 2015.
Right.
And it's like this apocalyptic I think Terminator did that. There was a lot of movies that did that. Now Blade Runner.
I've noticed that they now specifically say stuff like sometime in the future, or they set it like hundreds of years in the future so that they don't get it
no chance
totally wrong. Although hundreds of years from now they'll be watching that and going, oh my God, they got it totally wrong.
Completely, yeah.
We're living in a cave, and they thought we would be living in space. A cave with a DVD player.
None of the things that we really wanted, and the things that did come true, like video phones and stuff like that, that all sucks.
Sucks.
All the stuff I really wanted, like flying cars and regenerative limbs and stuff like that, didn't get it. The stuff they were right about, communications.
Yeah, video calls.
When we were a kid, it was like, someday you'll call someone and you'll be able to see their face while you talk to them.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
So we have video phones and all that stuff, but I don't really like that. I don't want anyone to see my face when I'm talking to them.
That's so funny. Yesterday morning, it's like 6 a.m, and my friend called me FaceTime.
Oh no.
And I'm like, I'm not feeling well. And
Don't FaceTime.
It's 6 a.m. and I'm in like a raggy sweater. My hair's poking up in all different directions. And I answered it. And I'm like, why the fuck did I just answer that? And I spent the next 10 minutes looking at my image on the phone fixing my hair, like going, oh my God, I can't believe I'm showing my face.
Yeah, anyway. There's no value to the video phone, except for grandparents.
By the way, this friend of mine is like a close female friend. She doesn't care. And I'm still self-conscious about it.
Of course.
Yeah, those things suck. I'm with you.
Yeah, technology sucks. I want to go back to the 80s.
You know what we're learning is that we're about, 40, 50 years behind on these things, because what we're actually getting is 1984. That's coming true.
Yeah, good point.
But he was just off, 30, 40 years, 50 years maybe.
That's a great point. It's very true.
Yeah, all right. On that note, let's talk about the Kavanaugh thing. So, we kind of talked about it last week, and it's continuing on. This woman's made this accusation with absolutely no evidence and like a conflicting story. And maybe she thinks it's true. She's confused about details. Maybe it's true. Maybe I don't even want to say maybe it's true. It's so arbitrary. But it's pretty clear that you can't really trust witnesses, especially 40 years later. And the other thing I wanted to say about this woman is the thing that really made me suspect right away was that she was talking about how this incident had impacted her so much. And she had PTSD and it was affecting her relationship, and she brought it up in therapy 30 years later. And she's blaming that in a therapy session on why she doesn't get along with her husband. Bullshit, first of all. But the incident that as she describes it, that's definitely traumatic, but not that traumatic. It's not rape, So I was already kind of like, this woman already sounds fragile and weird, and so whatever happened to her, she probably was like a screwed up kid. She's a weirdo. So I was a little suspect. But now her story has changed. I'm not saying that she doesn't believe it, but this is obviously being used for political reasons. But I've been thinking about this, and one of the reasons why I feel like the left is saying, you have to believe her no matter what. And even though she's not very credible and there's these contradictions and things, we're supposed to just automatically believe her because she's a woman and she's got pain.
No, right? We have to believe her because she's a liberal, not because she's a woman.
That's a very good point. There's definitely the political component. This would not be happening if it wasn't for leftist politics. And obviously the way Dianne Feinstein held on to this thing, she got it in July. When the guy's name when was his name brought up? I don't know, but
of course, it's so
she got it in July.
Political.
She's held it till after the hearings and released it in hopes of just crushing this guy's career. And I think what we said last week was things like, how would you like it if this was your son whose career is about to be crushed? But I was thinking about this. You know how during the Obama administration there was this change in rules in colleges where if a woman accused, there was no due process when it came to rape allegations in college.
Yeah.
So this is that seeping out into the culture.
Yeah.
Because people are like, their heads are exploding like, you don't believe her? Like, well, it doesn't even matter if she has evidence or not. It's not her job to prove it. Like, what is wrong with you people asking for evidence?
Right.
It's coming right out of the colleges and the way that we've been treating boys in colleges for the last 8 years.
Yeah, so there's like two issues you're pointing out. I mean, one, there's blatant hypocrisy because, what are we still investigating Keith Ellison and Al Franken? And all,
exactly.
Like,
Keith Ellison, two separate women have said that he beat them up.
Right.
And one has a 911 call. The other one has a hospital report.
She has a medical. Yeah, exactly. So we have tangible evidence of something that's been happening presently.
Yeah.
And that's just swept aside while we investigate something that happened 40 years ago.
Right.
So, and of course, they're playing all the montages of, Hillary Clinton from the 90s and 2000s, whitewashing all the accusers. Juanita Broderick, who accused Clinton of rape, is coming out and saying, why does the FBI investigate my case?
Right.
Where she actually has evidence. But so there's the blatant hypocrisy, but then there's this like almost epistemological issue you're pointing out, which is as soon as a woman speaks, we have to believe without any evidence.
Well, that's new. That's kind of a new thing in the last 8 years. Thanks, Obama. And, now it's seeping out. It's like people don't understand. Wait, why aren't you just accepting this? There's no due process for rape allegations.
But it's almost like something deeper where, there's this presumption that men are inherently evil and women are somehow always truthful. And so women can't lie. And so did you hear that Hawaiian senator? I forgot her name. She, that moron, that woman that came out and basically said, if you're a man, just shut up.
I didn't hear that.
And
Lovely.
do the right thing. We should play that clip next time.
As a woman, I have a news flash for you guys. Some women are really nasty pieces of work.
That's not how I was trained in the re-education camp.
I mean, I would almost go so far as to say that more women are, but that's not true. I know it's not true. I'm sure it's probably equivalent. So maybe they're not murdering people, but there are some pretty nasty women out there. And growing up a woman, I was bullied by some girls. I've worked for women who are vindictive and nasty. And and these leftist women are unhinged and emotional. You see them screaming all the time.
And it's not only that, but, my point about this too is not only is there no due process and there's no real evidential basis to go forward with any kind of investigation, because she doesn't even remember where or when this occurred, but let's just say it is true. He was 17 and they're at some high school party. I mean, how far do we go back? Like I remember when I was 12, I like kissed a girl awkwardly, on the side of the house or something like that. Mm-hmm. I mean,
did she consent? Did she sign a form saying she was allowing that?
Could that be brought out against me now? Like what age and what situation is, this kid was a minor.
And I'd like to say that boys are and I'm not saying laying on top of a girl and trying to tear her clothes off is a boy being awkward, but boys can be awkward. They're learning how to be assertive with women, and that's part of learning, is doing it badly and getting slapped or whatever. We don't know the degree, and of course we don't know the degree of this. We don't know any details.
Does she remember it? Yeah. Where he got on top of her and tried to kiss her and she said no and he walked away? Or was it no, he stood on top of her for 15 minutes? And, and then there's no...
Were they kissing and making out and then it was getting a little too much for her? And then we don't know any of those details. And
we can't know those details.
Right. I mean, that's just assuming that it even happened, which we don't know. It may not have been him.
And so now we have to rely on the hazy memory of someone
who was drunk, who was
drunk when she was 15, and this is her, supposed memory. And there's all sorts of scientific evidence about how people misremember these kinds of incidents. And so there's absolutely no basis for this at all. On top of that, it's not like there's a pattern of this guy, where accused all throughout his life of this, and this is just an incident. Yeah. There's no other accusations. There's no other women. There's people that have come forward and said he's a perfect guy, perfect gentleman. And I mean, so there's no pattern of this at all. There's absolutely no basis for this. It's purely blatantly political, but it's disgusting.
It's really disgusting. And on the one hand, I think, they should have just taken it to a vote rather than humor it, because I think part of why we are where we are is that we're humoring these mobs of crazy nuts. And people need to stand up and say, this is not rational, and you don't get to accuse people without evidence 40 years later for obvious political gain. We're not going to let it happen. But unfortunately, the right tends to always give the benefit of the doubt or show, look, we're reasonable. We care about rape. We'll do the hearing. We'll talk to her on Monday. We'll talk to him about it on Monday. He shouldn't even have to answer questions about this.
No.
There's not enough there for him to even have to answer questions. And there's a lot of evidence that it's very political. So anyway, I wanted to read bits of this article about it that I just found so great, and then we can kind of comment as I read pieces of this. The article is called "Ladies, We Don't Need to Be Part of Your Group Therapy" by Julie Kelly. And I'll just read the first part here. Do we really have to be here for this? By we, I mean America, and by this, I mean some form of forced group therapy session for adult women who cannot move past an ugly event from their teen years and feel the need to relitigate it in public nearly 4 decades later. A serious vetting process for a Supreme Court nominee has suddenly devolved into the Gen X version of The Big Chill. Do you remember that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was for our younger listeners, that was a movie where a bunch of old friends got together in a house. They were all old friends from high school. Someone died, and they were staying in a house for his funeral, and they just worked out all these old problems, all these old relationship problems. The whole thing, it's a therapy session in a house.
Uh-huh.
Great soundtrack, by the way. I recommend it. It's one of my favorite soundtracks. Okay. The article keeps going.
A lot of great actors in that movie.
A lot of great actors. Kevin Costner. I don't know if he's a great actor, but Kevin Costner.
Tom Berenger, Glenn Close was in that.
Yeah.
William Hurt.
Wasn't Kevin Bacon?
Anyway, there's a 99% chance that Bacon
was Kevin Bacon in there. Okay. It goes on. Here's the deal. Christine I can't say her name, Blasey Ford, is 1 year older than I am. We came of age in the hard partying 1980s when binge drinking among American teens was at an all-time high. A huge cultural shift was happening. Moms were entering the workforce and divorce rates were surging. Teenagers had extra latitude to do naughty things while our parents were busy working or finding new relationships. Plenty of Gen X women have at least one story somewhat similar to the one Ford now says happened to her in the early 80s, attending a house party with a small group of drunk teens at home where no parent was present, getting so blitzed you can't later recall important details like the exact date it happened or how you got home, having inebriated boys take advantage of the situation, getting sloppy and aggressive, maybe even trying to force themselves on you. While the behavior was not excusable or acceptable, nor was it criminal, especially if it ended after a firm no. Right?
Awesome.
Something that is definitely different today than it was in the 80s is that responsible parents of boys now caution their sons about the dangers of even the perception of mistreating a girl. Parents are now keenly aware of the legal and long-term consequences of alleged abusive behavior. So yeah, our generation was a little bit loose.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm Gen X. I'm younger than these women, but I definitely spent time alone drinking huge amounts of beer.
Right.
And I had one situation, I wouldn't even call it like this because it didn't approach anything forceful, but it was like the guy, tried and I was like, no. And I was really drunk, but I managed to be like, no. And he didn't pursue it, but he then verbally abused me, just called me a tease and gave me a ton of crap. And right. I was 13 and he was a really cute, popular 17-year-old, So I was a freshman, young, totally new to this world of making out, drinking, probably way too young to be in the situation I was in, but
13,
single mom.
That's really young.
Well, I was in high school at 13. I skipped a grade.
Oh.
So
okay.
Everybody around me, my friends were all 14. So, maturity-wise, I was probably 14. But still, that's still really young. And he was one of the most popular boys in school. And you have that guy telling you that you're young and stupid and, verbal abuse.
By the way, we've now entered your group therapy session.
Yeah, exactly. This is my, thank you, Doug. So, no, honestly, I had not thought about this until I read this article. And I thought, yeah, I have that moment. She said all of us girls from the 1980s, we had that moment. And I didn't think about it after. It hurt me in that moment. But I didn't have any permanent damage,
Right.
There was no PTSD. There was no, this is impacting all my relationships. I went on to date nice boys and, I had a good time in high school and I didn't feel, I'd never had another incident like that. But there was that one incident where I felt like that's a bad person, Anyway, that guy has a huge pot belly today. I just want you to know.
Well,
so
you got him.
What about you, Doug?
Well, I mean, if you're going to tell me, are you asking, did I get assaulted by women?
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, I got beat down, but
you were drunk.
No, I mean,
you didn't know what you were doing.
I can't even tell you how many drunken teenage type parties were going on in the 80s.
Right.
And was there ever times when, you're with a girl and it's an awkward moment or something?
Right. Where she says no but you weren't
you're
really...
like, come on,
right.
kind of a thing.
Yeah, you're trying to talk her into it.
Yeah, you're trying to talk her into it. Now, I never got, over the top like this encounter is alleged to be, but I imagine that happened maybe 175 million times in the 80s if we have a population of
probably
300 people.
5 out of 5 girls experienced pressure. 5 out of 5. In fact, I don't even know if it's avoidable today. I suppose today boys are scared. I mean, you have to be really, really careful. But back then, we didn't have this whole culture of, boys can't be boys. Boys can't like sex. Boys can't, ever try to talk a woman into having sex. I don't know.
But I'd estimate that between 1 million BC and 2013 AD, if you sampled teenage kids getting drunk together,
right,
fooling around,
this happened to
I'd say
all
there's
of them.
probably about 740 trillion instances of guys putting pressure on girls to have sex with them.
Right.
I mean,
it's kind of 100%, actually. And in fact, I think the dinosaurs probably had the same problem. Like it's that
right,
normal.
the T-Rex and the Brontosaurus were like kind of going at it, and he said, "Come on, and
stop it."
So this, and
that T-Rex, he's so aggressive.
I almost think that this.
Thank God his hands are little. Thank God his arms are so short. I never would have gotten away.
Exactly, his little fingers are so small. But I think this kind of sets back the whole situation, because now we're no longer distinguishing between serious incidents and like high school, like screwing around. Like there's no difference. It's almost like an attempt to criminalize sexuality and criminalize the male-female dynamic.
Right.
Like, of course, we all know
they've been doing that for a while now, but this is taking it into mainstream. This isn't even a court case. This is just a hearing for this. This is a job interview.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine you were in a job interview.
This is a very serious position that he is, going for. It matters a lot, and that's of course why they're doing this, because they know the courts matter. They're everything to these people because they've been legislating with the courts for 30 years. All right.
Yeah.
The article goes on. If Ford were interested in healing or even seeking justice after all these decades, there are plenty of other paths she could have pursued. Disclosing it to a politician rather than a law enforcement official seems to be a sure way to make it worse, not better. And unfortunately, for helpless Americans trapped in this collective therapist's office, Ford's tale has prompted more women to speak out, like I just did. I'm glad I told you guys what happened to me, because I'm just feeling like a release and a relief. Now I can go about the rest of my life.
No, we should be thanking you.
Yeah, I hope I didn't trigger anybody. I should have given you guys a warning. Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas's accuser, has reappeared. By the way, I posted on Facebook the other day Clarence Thomas's statement about that, and it just applies today. He makes this fiery statement about this is bullshit, basically.
Yeah. Oh, good. I didn't see that.
Oh, it's so good. Okay, a weird video montage of women, including a few celebrities, assured Dr. Ford that they believed her and that her non-existent testimony was credible. After coddling her as a victim, the gals then swooned about how she was a survivor and whatnot. Amy Schumer tweeted the ad telling Ford she was believable because, quote, "We've all been you," end quote. Yeah, we've all been her, and it's no big deal. You know what I'm saying? Get over yourself. All right. There's some more here, some really good stuff. Other women from the Duran Duran era are sharing their own scary teen encounters. Caitlin Flanagan, a writer for The Atlantic, authored a lengthy piece entitled, "I Believe Her." Flanagan claimed she confronted her own Brett Kavanaugh in high school when she and a boy struggled against each other in a car after he drove her home. Because of her own personal experience, Flanagan therefore thinks Ford is telling the truth.
Oh my God.
That is the epistemology of these people.
Something happened to me, therefore it must have happened to someone else.
It must be true.
There's a slight logical fallacy there. Not quite sure what, but just maybe a slight fallacy there.
I mean, reason is gone with these people. Reason is just out the window. It's crazy.
Yeah, and we're dignifying it.
Further proof that Kavanaugh is guilty, according to Flanagan, is that he never apologized. Quote, by Ford's account, Kavanaugh's acts did cause lasting damage, and he has done nothing at all to try to make that right. And that is why the mistake of a 17-year-old kid still matters. If it's not true, Kavanaugh should be confirmed without a cloud of suspicion. If it is true, we'll have to decide whether you get to attack a girl, show no remorse, and eventually become a Supreme Court justice. My own inclination is no, end quote.
Wow.
And then the author says...
So you have to apologize for something that didn't happen?
Right. He's supposed to be very concerned with just her feelings. And then the author, after reading that quote, the author writes, "That's not really how big girls think." Professional women give the constitutional duty of vetting a Supreme Court justice Professional women, given the constitutional duty of vetting a Supreme Court justice here, sound more like spurned sorority sisters than like thoughtful adults. Of course, this all is politics wrapped up in feigned sympathy, right?
Yep.
And phony, I'll hold your hair while you puke sisterhood. I love that line. Isn't that
I love
great?
that.
That's such a great line. Phony, I'll hold your hair while you puke sisterhood. I love it. If Ford was still haunted by something that happened back when Michael Jackson was teaching the world how to moonwalk, there were other ways she could have handled this. No matter whose political agenda it serves, we are under no obligation to help Christine Blasey Ford or any grown woman work through whatever issues they might have. And turning American politics into a late-night dorm chat while trying to destroy the professional and personal life of a man these women don't want on the Supreme Court is a spectacle we can all live without. Great article.
So good.
Yeah. So
Hear,
anyway,
hear.
that's our Kavanaugh coverage for today. We'll see what happens Monday. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So
What a bunch of wusses to the Republicans that like Flake and these guys that hate Trump so much that it's disgusting.
This is why Trump won. Trump won because we want someone who says, shut the fuck up. We just...
Totally.
That's
it's a great
how we
point.
feel about it. And we just want someone who's just going to be a brute and not take any of this seriously. Because that's how it should be treated. Okay. So we have a couple of other news stories I wanted to get into. And one is that Frank Oz from Sesame Street has come out and definitively said that Bert and Ernie are not gay. So the tweet is... So how this whole thing started, I learned, is that there was a guy, Mark Saltzman, who joined Sesame Street as a writer in the 80s. And he told, a gay blog that he was being interviewed by, that he was writing Bert and Ernie, that he conceptualized the characters as a couple. So he did that, he said, without an agenda, but as he was writing Bert and Ernie, they were a couple and he didn't have any other way. This is an interesting quote. He said, "I didn't have any other way to contextualize them." So he's very honestly saying he can't imagine two dudes just being buddies.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. I mean, that guy has like mental problems.
Yeah.
And
no kidding.
He's gay. He's like talking to a magazine called Queer Tea. That's where he gave this quote. But he cannot imagine a friendship among two guys.
Talk about projection.
Yeah, right?
My God.
Oh, right. So director and puppeteer Frank Oz was not happy with his characterization, tweeting that it doesn't matter in the slightest whether the characters are gay, but also make no mistake, they're 100% straight.
Good.
So
now we're sexualizing the puppets because this guy... And that's disgusting. Like, males can't be friends. There's always some latent sexual motive involved with any sort of relationship.
These are puppets for children who are pre-sexual. Like, the kids watching Sesame Street are not yet really aware of their sex as like that. They're certainly not. Of
course.
So you've got two guys who are just buddies. They don't ever do anything romantic between them, right? So why do they have to even have a sexual orientation?
Right.
That's how sick these fucking people are.
Exactly.
They want to give 5-year-olds a sexual orientation.
You're right.
It's gross. And anyway, to me, it feels like pedophilia almost. But it's also
That's what it is.
Yeah, it is. And it's also this idea that, and I'm sorry, but if I have gay friends, and they would be they hate that gay men are considered, are sort of slandered as pedophiles.
Right.
And this is not helping that cause.
No, because it's completely wrapping up the idea of like any male relationship is necessarily sexual,
right.
And then just the fact that this is even
that's sad for guys. I think guys ought to be able to be, and in America we kind of have that culture where as you get older you can't really have close boyfriends, men, just male friends.
Well, what do you mean? You think we can't have that?
I think a lot of guys don't have that. Yeah. I think they think it's kind of gay.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. I totally know what you mean.
Like girls grow up, I still treat my girlfriends kind of the way I did when I was a teenager, where I'll still hold their hand or put my arm around them. Like and nobody's assuming I'm hitting on them or something like that,
Right. That seems fairly natural.
Yeah. But guys in other cultures, like in Europe, they hug, they kiss on the cheek. We don't see that here.
Yeah. Why is this person even thinking of that? Like, you're doing a show with puppets for children.
For children.
Like, where's your mind
have to think, these two must be gay?
Yeah. It's like this attempt to sexualize and politicize everything.
Yeah.
Now we have to politicize, sexualize Bert and Ernie in the Sesame Street.
Is it politicizing it, or is it like worse than that? It's sexualizing children's television.
I think that's what I mean, because
is that a political
politicizing
agenda?
it. Because, in a sense, because they don't distinguish you because of the identity politics now, where you are defined by your sexual orientation or your ethnicity or your race or your gender. So everything to them is political. So, to the extent that you're, illustrating that these two must be gay or something like that, there's always some political component to it. It's a form of like normalizing this for children, I think.
You think
and you're seeing in the schools where at earlier ages they're trying to push this notion of gender fluidity
right
onto younger and younger children.
It's so sick that they're giving children drugs, like transitioning drugs or hormones or something like that. To me, I don't know how anyone can look at that and not see that as just a horror show.
Yeah,
here I am in my tubby again, and my tubby's all filled with water and nice fluffy suds. And I've got my soap and washcloth to wash myself, and I've got my nifty scrub brush to help me scrub my back, and I've got a big fluffy towel to dry myself when I'm done.
I mean, I hope that's not sexual, right?
But there's one other thing that makes tubby time the very best time of the whole day.
Gives new meaning to Rubber Ducky song.
It's a very special friend of mine, my very favorite little pal.
Rubber Ducky, you're the one. All right.
I don't want, this is maybe a little, I'm going to go deep on you on this one. This is almost like a means to destroy something wholesome and innocent. The whole discussion that these people are obsessed with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's almost a way to shit on traditional values in some way. Like here you have these innocent kids, they're watching these puppets, and now we're going to joke about how, no, these two guys are gay, as if there's nothing that we can have in the world that's not touched in some way or sullied in some way by, sex and politics or something like that. And it's, I was making this point the other day that this cultural divide in our country is really between people who look down their nose at, call it traditional values, and look at that sarcastically, or think it's a ruse, or any attempt at objective morality or sort of traditional values of some kind, family life, belief in marriage or relationships, or having a family, or just working hard, kind of traditional ethics that we would espouse, are silly, or and now we're being told they're racist, that this is like white thinking or something like that. That this whole thing just kind of strikes me as an aspect of this bigger cultural war that's going on between, I think, these people that are sort of like alienated from that on the coasts and in these urban centers, and the people who strive towards that in maybe the middle of the country, or in the South or the Midwest or wherever, where that's actually taken seriously. And it's this attempt by Hollywood and the culture and media to just constantly caricature, to stereotype, and to denigrate those values, and to kind of shit on them in some way. Yeah,
I mean, it definitely sullies Bert and Ernie, which should just be this innocent, like, I just jokingly played Rubber Ducky because, I mean, now if you're thinking about sex and you listen to that song now, it's different. And it sort of makes you look at it differently. But it's not, so it's kind of tearing down the puppets and like the innocence of childhood. But yeah, I don't know why this does not have to be sexualized. And it does feel like it's kind of being, I hate to use this, I was just going to say shoved down our throats, but like now I feel like everything I say
Easy
is...
now.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted this other quote. He tweets that Bert and Ernie are best friends who, quote, remain puppets and do not have a sexual orientation. They are puppets.
So if we looked under the clothing of the puppets, there's no anatomy.
There's actually nothing there. All right.
Maybe we should get them on a treatment then, or on the medications.
Yeah. Redesign these puppets for modern...
Transition
the puppets. Let's just let them be friends. Why can't they just be friends and have like a nice... They're best friends. That's so nice. All right. The other thing I wanted to bring up was Chevy Chase was quoted talking about SNL, and it's just a funny quote. This is just a short story, but it's just a funny quote because Chevy Chase, by all accounts, is a jerk. Mm-hmm. Everybody talks about him as being a really horrible person. But anyway, he kind of like is my spirit animal in this quote. He says, quote, I'm amazed that Lorne Michaels has gone so low. I had to watch a little of it, and I just couldn't fucking believe it. Chase told the Washington Post. That means a whole generation of shitheads laugh at the worst fucking humor in the world. You know what I mean? How could you dare give that generation worse shit than they already have in their lives? It just drives me nuts. End quote.
That's perfect.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that sums it up.
And SNL is so bad. The humor is gone. There's a total war on comedy. I saw today, this is funny. I was reading celebrity news, and Justin Bieber is engaged to Alec Baldwin's niece. I think her name is Haley Baldwin. And Alec Baldwin was giving them some marriage advice, and so there was this article about what that advice, what he said, marriage advice. And,
I can't imagine.
And they said Alec Baldwin, actor, comedian, and Trump like they made this big emphasis on his Trump impersonation. He's a Trump impersonator.
Please.
And I thought, Alec Baldwin, everything he's done and all his talent, and today, that's all he is. He's the Trump impersonator.
Right. It's like, and he does...
never should have done that.
And he does balloon magic.
his Trump impersonation is maybe the worst I've ever seen. And I've seen, there are some great Trump impersonations out there. Jimmy Fallon does a better Trump than Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, there's some good ones.
And yet he's the nation's Trump impersonator because he's been doing it on SNL and everybody's been blowing smoke up his ass, I'm sure, telling him how great he is, and it sucks. And now, because he does it every damn week, and it's the same stupid non-jokes and a bad impersonation, it's embarrassing, and that's what he's known for. This brilliant, genius actor and comedian is known for that, for his crappy Trump impersonation.
I think that's fitting. That's how I hope he's known as that, because it's the worst aspect of his career.
Yeah.
Norm had some great stuff about it too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, about how he hated it, and I think one of the points he was making, I don't want to try and totally characterize what he said, but it was essentially that, like, when you impersonate someone, there's a part of you that has to like the character and enjoy it, you know, and it's so vitriolic and it's just so one-dimensional that I think that's why it comes off as being
I think it was
so
Dana
stupid.
Carvey that said that.
Dana Carvey,
because he is the expert impersonator.
Yes. I think you're right.
And
Yeah,
I think it's him that said that you have to like you have to like who you're impersonating a little to find, just like any actor has to find some empathy for, even if they're playing a villain.
Yeah, because everyone's multidimensional, and that's what adds nuance and interest to them. Not, I'm just, you know,
I'm a dumb oaf. I'm a cartoon person. That's not Trump. I mean, he's got a little bit of buffoonery, but that's not all he is. And anyway.
No, that's why it's horrible comedically, because it's just so one-dimensional.
Yeah. And the writing is, the jokes are, it's like the setup and then, because Trump, ho, 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 ho. It's just like, what? Is there like some more to that? Because there really wasn't a joke there. Is there something you guys know that I don't know? Anyway. Chevy Chase, by the way, is on Norm Macdonald's new talk show on Netflix. Apparently he said some other stuff about SNL.
I haven't gotten to that one yet. I've been watching them.
Yeah, I watched the first one with, what's his face?
Yeah.
What's his face?
David Spade.
David Spade. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
I watched that one, and it was good. It was really, it's nice and casual and funny.
Yeah.
But this is actually his YouTube show, just put on a bigger stage.
Yeah.
It's the exact same show he's been doing on YouTube for, what, a year or two? Mm-hmm. And I can't stand his sidekick.
Oh, Adam Egret?
I can't stand him.
I love him.
He's so dumb.
Exactly.
I know that you say that. We've talked about this before. I think we talked about this a year ago. I can't take it. I don't know.
It's anti-comedy.
It's like
anti-comedy. It's classic Norm, though.
Right.
Because the guy doesn't know anything. He's not really informed.
He's not funny. He's awkward. And Norm just lets it all hang out like that. Like, he throws it to him and he lets the awkwardness hang there.
Exactly.
And it's totally Norm.
Only Norm could get away with it.
It's meta comedy, definitely. Meta anti-comedy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, that's the show you're getting. I've only watched the one episode. Have you watched more than that?
Yeah, I watched the Drew Barrymore episode. It was okay. She kind of bugs me because of her mannerism. You know, she's like, like, you know, she's, you know, how just Drew Barrymore, but she is like
she's a Valley girl.
Really, she is, but she is an interesting character. So I like that Norm was just taken with her and really loves her, you know, and constantly compliments her, how radiant she is, and how, you know, he was very, very, what's the word? Kind of effusively praising her in kind of an awkward way. So it was weird. It wasn't like it was just weird. It wasn't like some of his other ones, the YouTube ones where he had like Andy Dick on or David Spade or something, where he's making
obviously
fun of
in
them
his
and
element when he's with other comedians, and he has relationships with all these guys too. So
yeah,
that's when he's really in his element, I think.
Yeah, this was kind of like David Letterman awkward. You know when Letterman would get really flirty almost in like a desperate way?
Yeah.
Tell a star how much, oh, you look so beautiful. And he just, I don't know, it was very awkward. But I don't know, that's what makes it interesting, right? Because that's Norm.
Right. All right. The other news item I was going to bring up is the co-founder of March for Our Lives, one of these kids who, he was the kid who in the town hall embarrassed Rubio or was like really nasty to him. You remember that?
Yeah, vaguely.
I think he just was trying to, it was unfair and he was trying to embarrass Rubio. Well, it sounds like he's had kind of a change of heart, and he has said that he shouldn't have, he went in there wanting to embarrass Rubio, and that was a flaw, that he should have gone in wanting conversation. So he's kind of like the anti-hog, you know, like he's
actually learned something.
It sounds like he's learned something. And
you're not allowed to do that in today's culture.
Right.
Change your mind.
So you guys Googled this, Cameron Kasky. He actually gave an interview to Fox where he talked about, with this march, he was traveling around and he met people who talked to him about how they use guns for protection, and he doesn't come out and say, yeah, like I've totally changed my mind, but he just realizes that they're like people with reasons of their own, and you need to talk to people and not just be a dick. It sounds like he still supports the agenda, but he doesn't like the method of the March for Our Lives, although he does support it.
Interesting.
So anyway, it was kind of a maturing of at least one of the Parkland shooter.
Yeah, you would think that, like, that's why Hogg comes off to me as being such, he's almost like a plant or, you know, something like that, because he's so strident, like he doesn't learn anything. He's almost
a troll.
Yeah, like he's just
out. Could he really be a troll? Because he's so hateable. He's so unlikable.
Like he shows no ability to integrate other ideas or new, you know, here's a guy that's gone all over the country and had this experience. You think he would start to have some nuance in his thinking about this. Right. Like, you know, I can understand where these people are coming from, and, you know, we've heard from this, but he's just a straight fire anti-gun guy with no nuance and no sense of the complexity of the debate or the principles involved or anything. He's just, and that's why he's so hateable, because he's it's nice to see that someone's changed a little.
He's an ignorant punk kid who's really aggressive. And the other day on Twitter, he called for Nikki Haley's resignation because of her curtains that she didn't even buy, that Obama bought. And he didn't walk it back. You know, he didn't come out and go, oh, I'm sorry, or anything like that. He just left it out there. Whatever. I've had my 5 minutes of fame with that tweet, and I've moved on. And he doesn't care what he's saying or whether it's accurate, or he's just all about, you know,
he's all about soaking up the adulation.
People.
From, you know, he's virtue signaling and just soaking up all the.
I think he's a psychopath.
The adulation. That's probably right.
I think he's a psychopath. I think that he would be one of those Nazi soldiers that just really enjoyed killing Jews. You know, like that's how he comes across to me. Just completely unempathetic of anybody outside of what he's like, these sort of memorized ideas and slogans that he has.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like when I said plan, it's almost like he's programmed.
Yeah.
You know, like he's an automaton that just spits out the talking points.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch him, to watch where he goes with his life and career, because he's obviously going to be, you know, he's going to be famous. We're gonna have to pay attention to that kid for years.
Yeah, it's like Chelsea Clinton. You kind of like these kids. They start. Yeah, they start spawning, and then you got to like watch out for them.
Wonder when the Obama kids are gonna get high profile, high paying careers that they don't deserve.
Exactly.
When's that going to happen?
Our future overlords, the children of the modern aristocracy of the left.
Oh my God. It's so... All right. Well, that is it for our show today. I love you all, especially my Elite Squad. Join our Elite Squad at patreon.com/House of Sunny. For $1, you can join our Elite Squad and become a part of our secret Facebook group. That's probably the best reward right now. Although there are also mugs, t-shirts, things like that, but we haven't done any town halls. We were going to do town halls. We were going to video record these podcasts. All of that is delayed as my health continues to bother me. It's delayed until I get my clone, which is coming in the box next week.
Yeah, any day now.
Any day now, I'll get my clone, and then I will do videos again. So that's coming up. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the House of Sunny podcast. Go check out Sunny on YouTube at her channel, House of Sunny. Everything Sunny does is fan-funded. And because she's likely to get kicked off and demonetized on every